This tutorial is about MVVM with dependency injection. MVVM stands for Model View Model, and it's a way of organizing code in apps, especially those with a lot of user interfaces like websites or mobile apps. The model, this is where all data is stored. You can think of a model like a filing cabinet where all your information is kept. The view, this is what you see on the screen, such as the buttons, text, images. It's like the layout of a room that you can see and interact with. The view model, this acts as a middleman between the model, which is the data, and the view, what you see. It takes data from the model and maybe changes it a little bit to make it look nice, and then it sends it to the view to be displayed. MVVM helps to keep the data part of your app separate from the visual part, making it easier to handle changes and to fix bugs and to perform updates within the application, such as new features. To populate the data for the app, we'll be using dummy json.com/products, as seen here. This is the URL, the API. The attributes that we'll be extracting for this application, it includes the following keys, which are ID, title, and the thumbnail. The thumbnail includes the image, the product image that was seen earlier within the list. So with the JSON includes a product array of dictionaries, which is on line 2. And the dictionary includes ID, title and description and price, stock, brand and category, and also images and thumbnail. Within your SwiftUI project, create a new file called product response. And this is a new Swift file. A Swift file, and then just name it product response. And then the next thing we need to do is to add our attributes to the product response. So the attributes that we need to add includes the ID and the thumbnail and also the title. And we also need to import SwiftUI. Import SwiftUI. Struct product codable identifiable equatable. The purpose of using codable is because we want to extract the key values from the JSON, and identifiable is to make each of the JSON records unique so that we can use it within our list, and equatable is so that we can do comparisons that we'll be doing later to compare different objects. The attributes or the variables that we need for the structs includes var ID, which is int let title string and let thumbnail string. And we also need to create another struct. We can create it in the same file, or you can separate it and put it into a new file, but I just create it in this file just to make it a little bit easier. It's called structs products response. And product response will contain an array of products. Let products product. I'll just compile it now just to make sure that it's correct. The next class that we need to create is, or file, is called the API.swift. Select new file, next, and then type in API for the name of the Swift file, create. And the purpose of the API.swift file is to enable the application to request the JSON payload so that the JSON payload can be displayed on the view within a list. But the first thing we need to do is to create proper error handling. So to do that, we'll be using enums. So type in the following, enum. Oh yeah, we also need to import SwiftUI. Import SwiftUI enum fetch error. So it's implementing the error. And then we will have a network error. And then for the next case, we have a decoding error. A decoding error, which is the error. And the final case is bad URL. On line 13, it represents a network related error such as a connection failure or timeout. It includes an associated value of type error which captures the specific network related error, which is this here on line 13. And then on line 15, it represents an error that occurred during decoding of JSON data. This is this one here on line 15. And the error could be or include an associated value of type error, like the wrong key value pair. For example, if the application is expecting ID, but we called the name of the attribute number instead of ID, so that would be a decoding error. And then for the case bad URL error, case on line 17, this represents an error when creating or resolving a URL for the network request. The next thing we need to create is another enum. which will include HTTP methods, and the cases that we'll be using is case get, open bracket, URL, query, item, and on line 19 this represents a GET request with optional query parameter. And then the next request is case post data. It's similar to the GET, but it just represents a post request with optional request body data. And now we implement a computer property to return the name of the HTTP method as a string. So we just type in var name string switch self case.get return get case.post return post. And if you wanted to, all of these enums, they could be in a separate file. So if you want to, you can always add it to your own file, but just to make the tutorial a little bit easier and quicker, I just include it into the same file. We also need another struct that's called resource. Struct resource T is a generic codable. Let URL equals URL. And that's the URL of the API that we saw earlier. Var methods HTTP method equals .get. And this is a HTTP method to use for the network requests. Init URL equals to nil, and this is a convenience initializer that allows an optional parameter which is URL. Self.url equals to URL. And this struct could also be within a separate file as well. And it's best to put it in a separate file because it makes this file shorter. And then the next thing we need to type in or create is the class API. So just type in class API. private let URL session init. So we create the initializer for the API class with the custom URL session. So we need to, on line 14, forgotten to include equals dot shared. Next thing we need to do is we need to create a mock fetch product response. This will be used for later when we're doing unit and UI testing. So just type in private var mock fetch product response data, which is optional. Next thing we need to create is our fetch products method. That accepts a generic, which is codable. And then a response, I mean a resource, not response, a resource. And the resource is also generic. And then, because it's doing a network request, we need to return asynchronous and asynchronous throws, just in case there's an error. So just type in async throws and return a generic error T. On line 47, it fetches a product from a URL and returns a generic object of type T. Our throws needs an S at the end on line 47, so there should be an S at the end of throws. Now we need to create our request. Var request equals URL request. URL resource.url. If it's nil, after it's unwrapped, we just supply this hard-coded constant URL, to which is string https dummy.json.com products. We also need to false unwrap it there. It should be false unwrapped. Although we should really do safe unwrapping. For string, on line 49, I missed out a T, so I need to enter a T for string. And the next thing we need to do is to configure the request based on the HTTP method for get or post. So we just type in the following switch statement: switch resource dot method case dot post let data request dot http method equals resource dot method dot name. And how that works, it gets the resource.method.name from the HTTP method here. So if we're doing a GET request, the resource will have GET when it does a return. Else if we're doing a POST request, the resource would have a POST for the HTTP method. Then we need another request .http body equals data so that's for the post request. So the post request for the HTTP body, we could be posting the information to the web service. Like for example, posting a new product that includes a product name and an image. So for the get resource, we need to implement that now. So case.get let query items var components equals URL components URL resource dot URL question mark URL open bracket string. It's similar to what we've done earlier on this line. It's a little bit similar. So we just copy and paste the URL. And then we add the exclamation mark for false unwrapping, comma, resolving against space URL, and assign that as false. Next we need to enter components, query items is equal to query items. And then if the URL components could not be created, we need to throw an error. So just type in throw now we need to create a guard statement first. Guard let URL equals components question mark dot URL. So what that does, if it can be unwrapped, then it will unwrap it and then put the return value from components into URL. If it cannot unwrap it, it will execute this line to throw an error, a fetch error, fetch error, bad URL. But if everything was okay and there's no error, it will execute this line, request equals URL request URL URL. The next thing we need to do, after line 62, enter the following. Let configuration equals URL session configuration dot default. And then we need to add default headers such as application.json. It's best to do that so that the information is rendered correctly on the client side, which is the iOS device. Configuration .http additional headers content type application /JSON. Oh, this is incorrect. The quote should be here, and then the next quote should be after the colon, which is here. Yeah, because we're working with JSON, we need to assign it as application.json. I spelled application incorrectly. Yeah, that's correct now. Application /JSON. So if you're working with XML, this would be /XML, but we're working with JSON, so it's JSON. Next, we need to type the following: let session equals URL session configuration. And now we need to type the following, which enables the network request to be performed asynchronously. So just type in let data response equals try await session dot data for request. So now that we've executed the network request, we need to check to make sure that the response is okay. So we have to check that the response returns a 200 status code. So to do that, just type in guard let http response equals response as http URL response http response.status code equals 200. Else So on line 70, just wanted 200. Yeah, that's good. Else, an error happens, so we need to throw the error to the caller. Fetch error dot network error. So this error would be called to the view model, not to the view directly, because in this tutorial we're using pure MVVM. NS error, open bracket, domain. For the domain, you can enter anything what you like or leave it blank. I'll just enter iOS insights.co.uk, and for the code, I'll just enter 1. And then comma user info. For the user info, I just state which network error happened or which error happened. NS localized description key. NS localized description key. So this will be a network error. As I said earlier, we can have network errors or decoding errors, but this is a network error. So for the label, we just state it as network error. And we need a colon here as well. And then we need to create a JSON decoder so that we can retrieve the key value pairs from the JSON. So just type in decoder equals JSON decoder. So we create a new instance of the JSON decoder, and we need to catch and handle the errors that could happen. So we have a do catch block. So within the do block, let's enter the following: guard let result equals try question mark decoder decode. And because we're decoding an array of dictionaries, we just type in .self data. Else throw fetch error dot decoding error. So we can just copy and paste what we've done earlier with the network error. I'll just copy it, makes it a little bit quicker. Just copy the throw statement. And then for the user info, just change it as decode error. And then if everything is good, we then return the result to the caller, which is the view model result. Return the result there. But if there's an error, we return the error to the view model. So we throw the error to the view model. And now just compile it just to see that it's correct. It's compiled, so that's good. So the next function we need to do is to create a set mock response function that accepts a generic. And the purpose of this function is to be used for unit and UI testing, codable response T. Let encoder equal to JSON encoder. And do the do block there to catch any errors. Mock fetch product response equals try encoder dot encode response. Catch, just to display any errors that might happen. So we do that on the print line. On print encoding mock response error. I'll compile it again. Oh, we need to create a new instance, so we need the brackets. I'll compile it again. Cannot find. Cannot find mock fetch product response. Oh, there's an error on lines 95. Let me see if this has been defined. But it should be mock fetch product response. I'll compile it again. Still not working. And let me take the private out of it. Don't know why it's not working. Take the private out, see if you can see it now. Still doesn't work. I'll comment out this code block and see what happens and compile it again. I think I know what it is now. I think this method it's been defined outside the class. So I've done it accidentally. I need to move this within the class. In this tutorial, you will learn how the view model isolates logic from the UI components, enhancing code organization, testability, and reusability. The first view model we will create is the product view model. Within your Xcode project, create a new folder. We select new group. Call the group view model. Within your view models folder, create a new Swift file called product view model. And then within the product view model class, type the following: class product view model identifiable observable object. The purpose of marking the class as identifiable is because we want each record in the class to have a unique ID when we're looping and displaying the information within our view on a list. And observable, we observe and detect any changes that's happened within the view model. Let ID equals UUID. So this, on line 12, that's the identifiable unique ID. Let product, and the purpose of that variable is to hold the information of the product. At publish var image UR image. The purpose of the at publish is to publish all the new changes to the UI that's happened. Oh yeah, also need to import SwiftUI. Import SwiftUI. Next we need to create our initializer that will accept a product. Self.product is equal to product. I'll just compile it, just make sure it's correct. It's compiling at the moment. The next view model we need to create is called products view model. The purpose of products view model is to contain an array of products. Within your view models folder, just create another Swift file, but this time name it products view model. Products view model. Import SwiftUI. And then we need to add the following @main actor. And the purpose of the main actor is to ensure that the code runs on the main thread, and that enables the UI to be more responsive. Class the class is called products view model, and we will implement the observable object. Now we need to create a few publish properties. @publish var products product view model. On line 14, it creates a publish property products to hold an array of product view models. @published var search text. And this is similar to the previous one, but this one just creates a publish property for the search text. So if the search text changes or the product view model changes, then those changes will be published to the UI, will be sent to the UI. Public var API. Create an initializer. Don't really need that one there. All we need is the API parameter. Next thing we need to create is our method that's called fetch products, which is asynchronous, and it also throws the errors, any error back to the UI. For example, the content view will handle the errors, display the errors. Do, so we need the do block to catch the errors and a catch statement there. And then we throw the errors back to the caller. Let products response product response equals try await API. So now we're going to try to fetch the products from the web API. So we're going to attempt to do a web request. Let's type in fetch products and then we need to pass in product response.all, and that includes the URL, the endpoint that we're using. So that's product response.all. It seems like there's an error somewhere. Has no member products. So let's go back to the API. Maybe I didn't define it properly. So where's the API? Oh, there it is. Oh, here it is on line 47. It should be called fetch products, but we called it fetch product. There should be an S at the end of fetch products. So now let's recompile it and see if it compiles. Has no member all. The reason why all cannot be found is because we need to create another file, a product response extension. And the product response extension will include a URL with the for all products endpoint. Let's create a new folder call the new folder extensions. Within the extension folder, create a new Swift file. Call the Swift file product response. Really, we need to include the word extension. So rename the Swift file that we just created, the product response. Add a plus sign and then type in the word extension. And now we can continue to create our extension product response. Next thing we need to do is to create a computed static property, static var or resource product response. So that will be returning an array of dictionaries. Return resource And then for the URL, we want to return all records. So just type in for all products. And then we create that afterwards, the for all products. We need to create another extension, which is a URL extension that will include the for all products. So in your extension folder, just create another Swift file. URL plus extensions. And then type in extension URL. Create another static computed property, static var for all products. This will return a URL. Return URL string, and then the name of the endpoint, HTTPS dummy json.com /products. Now we need to go back to, we need to force unwrap it. Now we need to go back to the product view model. And then within the product view model, this should now compile. So let's compile it to see if it does compile. Yes, that's good, it compiles. So using this endpoint, we'll be fetching all of the products from the dummy JSON API. Products equals product response dot products dot map. So now we need to map all of our products from and using the product view model. We have to get each element and pass each of the elements into our products variable, which is an array. Product view model product $0. So it's getting each element and then passing each of the elements to the product view initializer, and then it maps it to the products array, which is here. All this is doing is just doing a for loop, so it's just looping through each of the records, but this is just a quicker way of doing it. Instead of doing something, for example, for products in products. So instead of doing that really. I'll just compile it again. The next thing we need to do is to define a computed property, and the purpose of this computed property will be to enable the filtering functionality on the view, so users can filter by product names that they're searching for. Var filtered products. Product view model. So this returns an array of product view models. If search text is empty, so if search text is empty, that means we just want to get all of the products, so we're not narrowing any of the products or filtering any of the products. We just want to return all of the products in the system, which is the API. Return all of the products. Else, if there is a filter applied, then just return the products that's based on the parameter localized case insensitive contains. So this means it will work with uppercase or lowercase, it will be the same thing. So if we typed in, for example, iPhone with all lowercase, that would be the same as like iPhone or iPhone. I mean, iPhone, it would be the same case. I'll just compile it again. Oh, there's an error there with products, product view model. Oh, the reason why we're not returning an array of product view model, we're returning an array of products view model. So we need to remove the S. Try to compile it again. The next extension we need to create is called the product view model extension. Within your extensions folder, create a new Swift file. Call the file product view model plus extensions. Type in extension. Product view model. Equatable. The reason why we're using equatable, because later we need to compare objects to see if they relate to one another, to see if it's the same object. Static function equals LHS product view model RHS product view model, and then we need to return a boolean that will indicate if it's true or false if the two objects are the same. So how we do that, we compare the objects on the left hand side of the product ID. Is it the same object compared on the right hand side? of the product ID. Now let's compile it. It doesn't compile. Oh, this should be on lines 11. This should be a semicolon. Compile it again. Next week we'll be implementing the functionality to pull the view models from the content. Today we will implement the content view to retrieve the products from the product view model and then display those retrieved products on the content view. Within your content view, enter the following: @state object private var view model equals products view model, and we need to pass in the API as we're doing dependency injection. And then we have to create a @state variable, @state private var search text, @state private var selected product, product view model, which can be nil, @state private var error message, @state private var error happened equals false, @state private var no records found after filter equals false. Delete between lines 21 and lines 24. Also delete the padding on lines 24. And then on line 20, rename this as navigation view. and then add our VStack. And then type in the following. If ever happened, we just add a little comment here. Show the overview. Else show search bar. If no records found after filter, type another comment, show error view. After line 33, add the following. Scroll view lazy vgrid. Within the lazy vgrid, we'll be using one column. For the grid item, make it flexible. I think there's too many brackets here. There should be a closing square bracket here. Spacing 10, because we want each of the rows to have a space between each product, which is about 10 pixels. For the lazy V grid, it should be a H and not a V. I'll just compile it again. Next thing we need to do to populate the grid, we need to have a loop, like a for each loop. And now we're going through the filtered products within the view model. ID, give each product a unique ID. product view model in. Next thing we need to do is add a button action so that when the user clicks on a product, it will go to the detail view. Selected product equals product view model. And then we next need to apply the VStack. VStack spacing 12. And the purpose of the VStack is to display the products, such as the product photo, the name. To display the product image, we'll be using a sync image for better performance. URL, string, product view model dot product thumbnail. The thumbnail includes the URL of the product so it can be displayed, so it can be retrieved and then displayed onto the view. Image option in. I'll just compile it again. And then now we include some validation to make sure that the image is a valid image. Case dot empty. So if the image is empty, if it's not a valid image, then we just display a system image, which is called photo. Dot resizable. Dot scale to fit. Dot frame size of the image. Width 75 and height 75 pixels. Dot background dot grey, the color of the image. Dot corner radius, which is 12. So the image will not have any corners, it will be curved. And then for the next case, if the image is valid, we display that image. Dot resizable, or we can just copy what we've done previously. Copy resizable, scale to fit, and then the frame. Background color and corner radius. If there's a failure to get the image, we display a system image. Oh, that's incorrect. System name. Well, that should be oh yeah, we need the underscore open bracket and colon, and then we display our image, which is a system image, system name EXCLAMATION exclamation mark. Exclamation mark dot triangle dot fill dot resizable dot scale to fit dot frame width 75, height 75. Dot background gray. Dot corner radius 12. And then the next thing we need to add is a accessibility identifier. This is needed when we start to do some UI testing. Accessibility identifier. Oh, we missed out something else. Let's delete the accessibility identifier code there. On line 70, or on line, after line 69, we need to enter the following: at unknown default empty view. So what that means, if a unknown error happened that the system doesn't even know about, it will just display an empty view. And that would be an empty view for the image for the product. I'll just compile it again. After line 73, enter the following: dot accessibility identifier product image. That will be the identifier that we're using for UI testing. Text product view model dot product title. That will be the text for the button. Dot font. Dot headline. That's the style. Dot multi text alignment equals center. After lines 80, we need to create another accessibility identifier. So I just copy the previous one that we've done. We call this one product button. Dot background. Next thing we need to do is to create a navigation link. And this will be hidden. Destination. We need a detailed view, but it's not created as yet. So at the moment, we just leave it as empty, as an empty view. I will also add a little comment to add detail view here. On line 97, add the dot on a pair, and then add a task. Since we're doing asynchronous programming, and then add a do statement to catch any errors. Then type in the following: error happened equals false. Try await view model dot fetch products. And now let's run it to see if the list gets populated. So it should be populated with a product title and the product image. Now that's good. So it's populated. As you can see, we need to add our navigation bar and our search bar at the top. And at the moment we can't really click on anything, it won't do anything if we click on it anyway. So let's continue to add our error handling. Error happened. It's true. Switch. Error. Case. Let. Fetch error. Network error, which is a network error. Because in this example we're handling or just capturing network errors and decoding errors. We need a semicolon at the end of line 111. Let localized description equals network error dot localized description. Error message is equal to localized description. And that should be a Z. That should be a Z. Localized description. And then for our next case statement, this is where we capture the coding errors. The coding the decoding error could be, for example, the key is incorrect within your JSON, like within your product response class. So the correct key, for example, is title here. But if we typed in X, and then once it's compilable, because it's expecting title, during runtime, title isn't found in the payload. Title X is found instead, so that means it's a decoding error that would be performed. Let decoding error description equals decoding error dot localized description error message is equal to decoding error description. And then if it's not a decoding error or network error, we just capture the error as a default error. Error message equals to error dot localized description. Spelled that incorrectly. There should be an O on this line 115 for decoding. I'll compile it again. Now let's run it again. The next thing we need to do is after line 126, we need to add a event which is dot on change. And the purpose of this event is when we implement the search bar, each time when we're changing a value, like to filter within the search bar, the filtered values is then sent to the view model each time we're changing the values. Search text new value in view model dot search text equals to new value. And then we also need to type no records found after filter equals view model dot filtered products is empty question mark true. If it's empty, if it's true, that means no records were not found, else it's false. Which means records were found. There's something wrong with the dot on change event. Or maybe I have to move it. Or maybe this needs to be on line 25. Let's try to compile it now. But that's incorrect. And let's try line 128. Compile it now. Now I'll run it. In next week's tutorial, we'll implement the error view and the search bar, and then the detailed view so that the user can navigate from the content view to the detailed view to view the selected product that they clicked on. For example, the user can select any of these records, and then when they click on the record, the information will be displayed on another view. So on this view, it displays the product name, the image, and the product ID. We will now create the detailed view. Within your Views Models folder, create a new SwiftUI view. Select SwiftUI view, click on Next, and then call the new view Detailed View. We can delete the previews. Let's type in the following. Let product view model product view model vstack text product view model dot product dot title. This is where we display the detailed information of the product. Dot font dot title. Now we display the image, a sync image, URL, string, product, view model, product, thumbnail, image, option, in, switch, image option, case.empty, display an image holder if it's empty. So we just type in image, system name, and use the photo image from the system name. An image that should be a capital I, dot resizable, dot scale to fit, dot frame, width is 200, height 200, dot background, color, dot gray, dot corner radius, 12. The next statement that we need to test is when the image is available and has successfully loaded. Type in case.success, the image, colon, image, dot resizable, dot scale to fit, dot frame, similar to the other frame, so we can just copy and paste lines 25 to 27. And the next statement to include is if the image couldn't load, so there's a failure loading the image. So just type in case.failure Yeah, we can just copy between lines 22 and 27. And then we just change the system name of the image to call it exclamation mark dot triangle dot fill. And that should be resizable, scale to fit, frame 200 with the width and the height, and background color is grey, corner radius is 12. And then the final case we have to handle is unknown cases. Just type in at unknown, default, empty view. I'll just compile it. It's compiled, so the next thing we need to do is return to the content view. And then on line 86, we need to update the code that we've done last week to apply our detailed view within the navigation link. So on line 86, instead of having an empty view, we'll be using our detailed view for the destination. So that'll be detailed view, which is the product view model that includes the parameters as argument. And then we just type in product view model, and then a comma at the end. Oh yeah, we need to delete the last bracket at the end on lines 86. So this should just be one bracket at the end on line 86, as shown here. Next we type in is active binding bool and then we create a get property and then we need to do a comparison to check that the selected product is equal to the product view model. And then we need to create a set property, which is a write property. new value in. If not, new value. So what this means, when the binding is set to new value, then assign nil to the selected product. So selected product is equal to nil. So what that does, if the new value is false, set the selected product ID, the selected product to nil. On line 92, there's a mistake. There should be 2 equal signs there. And then I think there's a bracket missing. Yeah, we need another curly bracket, one of these ones. So there should be 3. And then to make the navigation link transparent, we need to type in the following: dot opacity 0, and then type in on lines 110 dot button style plain button style. That just removes the button styling. Now let's run it to see if it's working or not. It's not working, so there must be some error between line 86 and 111. Seems like I typed in the navigation link code in the wrong format. Something to do with the bracketing. I think it's between lines 104 and 111. So, yeah, because that bracket shouldn't be there. So we can delete the bracket on line 104, this one here. Delete that bracket there. And we need another curve bracket after opacity. So on line 110, you should have one of these brackets. And then I think that's right. Let's try it again. Now I'll just select any of the items, any of the products. It should now navigate to the navigation view. As you can see, display the name of the product, but it's not displaying the product ID. There should be a number at the bottom here. So we'll try to fix that issue afterwards about displaying the product ID. The next thing we need to do is to add some padding. After lines 114, add the following. Dot padding. And then we need to display navigation title, so just add dot navigation title. Just call it products. Let's run it again to see if it works. I'll just click on any product. As you can see, it's displayed the navigation title called products. Just click on iPhone X. So now let's see if we can display the product ID. Just see if it's something to do with the details view. Oh, that's why it's not displaying. We forgot to add the text elements to show the product ID. So the text elements to show the product ID, you just place that anywhere after line 47. Type in text, string, product, view model, product ID, dot font, headline, just for a little bit of style, dot multi-line, multi-line text, dot center, dot accessibility identifier, product ID. We need this to do UI testing. Dot accessibility, and then after lines 54, just add dot padding, dot navigation, title, product details, dot accessibility, accessibility, spelled it incorrectly, dot accessibility, yeah, that's wrong. We'll just copy this one. Detailed view. I'll rerun the application. It's just loading at the moment. And now, just select any product, iPhone 9, and now you can see the ID in the search bar and the error view. With the search bar, we can filter on the type of products that we are looking for. For example, if I was trying to search for all the iPhones in the system, to type in iPhone. But if I was trying to search for a product that doesn't exist, such as ABC, then it will display this error view, which is error, no records found in list. That's what we're doing in this tutorial today. So this is part 5 of the tutorial. Within your SwiftUI project, create a new SwiftUI view. Name this view search bar. We can delete the preview between line 16 and 20. And add the following: at binding bar search text, the purpose of line 11, the at binding, is to make the search text bidirectional so that the search text communicates from the content view to the search bar view and vice versa. Within our body, we need to delete the text, which is on line 14. create a HDAC, text field, product search, text, $, search text. Add a bit of style, padding, vertical, 10, dot padding, horizontal, 20, dot background, dot grey, dot opacity, 0.2, dot corner radius, 8, dot overlay. For the overlay, we need to create another HDAC. And the purpose of the overlay is to include the magnifying glass symbol within the search bar, system, name, magnifying glass. Dot foreground color, grey, spacer. Search text was spelled incorrectly, so on line 11 we need to correct the error in the spelling. It should be C and not X. And on line 16 there's an error. It should be text and not text. D at the end should just be text. The next thing we need to do is to check to see if the search text is empty. We do that by using this if statement. So if not search text empty, that means it contains a value. Action. So if it's not empty, then set it to empty. Image, system, name. And the purpose of setting the search text to empty again is to enable the user to perform another search or filter so it gets rid of their current search or filter. Dot foreground color, dot grey, dot padding, dot trailing, dot 8. Dot on a pair, so we don't really need dot on a pair. So we just use .padding horizontal just to make the layout a little bit neater. Just compile it to see if it works or not. It's compilable or not. So that part is done. The next thing we need to do is to create our error view. No, let's not create the error view now. Let's add the search bar to the content view. So open your content view. And then on line 28, where we added the comment, show search bar, enter the following: search bar search text $, search text. This is what we're passing. Search text is the state variable that we're passing to the search bar view. Dot text field style rounded border text field style. Dot padding dot horizontal dot accessibility identifier search bar. The dot accessibility is needed when we're doing UI tests. And then the next thing we need to do is near the bottom, oh, we've done it already, the on change, so that doesn't need to be done. Well, let's run it. I think it will work now. So we should be able to filter and search the list using the search bar. Let's see if we can filter. So I'm going to try to filter for iPhone X. Yeah, so it's filtering iPhone, so it's located all the iPhones, but there's only 2 iPhones on there. But I want the iPhone X, so it filters for the iPhone X. Click on the iPhone X row, and then it's displaying the actual product within the detailed view. To get rid of the search text in the search bar, we just click on the X. And that X is what we've done about 5 minutes ago, which is in the search bar file, which is here. This is the X. So when we click on the X, it will assign blanks to the search text, so it gets rid of any information stored in a variable. The next view we need to create is the error view. So we need to create a new SwiftUI view and name it error view. And to make our structure a little bit neater, we can select the 3 views that we're creating at the moment, which is content view, search bar, and error view. The search bar, that should have the word view at the end, but you can do that later if you want to. So I'll just put these 3 files into a folder, and I'll name that folder views. Just to make it a little bit neater, so it looks more like MVVM. And the product response, that should have a folder called model. So we can just do that now. Because we're only using one model anyway, so I just called it model. And with the extension, we can just move it down below the view model folder. I think it moved it inside. Let me move it back up. We can move it down below. The API class, just move it into the model folder just to make it a little bit neater. So now I rename the model to be models, because there's more than one model. I'll just run it again just to make sure I haven't broken anything. Just a little test, iPhone or Androids. Are there any Androids? Galaxy. Yeah, there's Galaxy. So now, within our error view, we need to do the following. Delete our preview. We're not using that. The reason why I don't use previews on tutorials, because my MacBook is very slow, because I need to buy a new MacBook. That's why I don't use previews within a tutorial, because it will delay the video too much when I'm doing it, and sometimes Xcode crashes when I'm using previews. Type in the following within your error view. Let error message string the purpose of the error message variable is to display an error message on the screen at environment open bracket / dot presentation mode var presentation mode. The purpose of lines 12 is to dismiss, get rid of the current screen. At binding var error happened bool. The purpose of the error happened boolean variable, it's a bidirectional variable that communicates within the content and the error view, so that the content view knows when to show the error or not. So if an error has happened, the content view will show the error on the screen, like the error view on the screen. If the error hasn't happened, the content view will not show the error view or the error message on the screen. At binding var search text. Delete line 17. Add a spacer, a v-stack, image, system name, exclamation mark dot triangle. Oh, there's an error. I mean, exclamation mark is spelled incorrectly. It should be a little m and not a capital M. Exclamation mark dot triangle dot fill dot font dot system size 100 dot foreground color dot red. So the exclamation mark, that's the error message image that's displayable when there's no records that relates to our search criteria within the search bar. And then we need to display the actual error message, which is error. And then the information of the error, which is in a variable called title. No, not in a variable called title. This is the font style. The information of the error is in the error message variable, which is this one here, which we're doing next. So now we're just styling the text error element. Font weight dot bold dot foreground color black dot fixed size horizontal and vertical. So we just select the second one. We can enter it manually if you want to. False, vertical true, dot padding, top 16. So now we're doing we're going to show the error message. So if the error message, was it a codable, a decoding codable error? Was it a network error? URL error, that type of message. Font weight, we don't need font weight. For dot font, we just need body and color is grey. Yeah, this is the same, so we leave that alone. And for padding, just make it horizontal with a space of 20 pixels. And then we need to create a button so that the user can dismiss the error view. Self dot error happened equals false. Search text equals comma comma. Clear the search text. Presentation mode dot wrap value dot dismiss the view, get rid of the view, and then display an OK button with the word OK. Dot font. I'll just copy and paste what we've done previously and just change some things around. Dot font. Dot headline. Font weight. We don't need no font weight. Foreground color is white. Dot padding. Dot vertical 12. Dot padding. Dot horizontal 20. We can get rid of the fit size on line 47. Dot background color is dot blue. We can get rid of the last padding on line 48. And then we add another padding on line 49. Dot padding top 24. Anywhere after line 50, just add the following: dot padding 24. Dot frame max width dot infinity max height dot infinity dot background dot white dot edges ignore safe area dot all, and a spacer just to push it up a bit. And then now we need to go back to the content view. I'll just compile it first just to make sure. Now we go back to the content view, and then within the show error comments that we added previously, we need to add the following. So on line 25, just add the following: error view error message. So now we're going to pass in the error message, self error message. And then we don't need the presentation mode. Just need the error message, error happened. $, error happened. And the search text, $, search text. And then we need to assign dot accessibility identifier error view. Oh, that should be search text, not search. Let's compile it again. And then we just copy and paste. Really, this should be within a usable method within the view model somewhere. Maybe you can add that another time. So for the error message parameter, we want the message no records found in list. And then for the error happened parameter, we need the no records found after filter. And then for the identifier, we just assign no records for found error view. And then, yeah, I think that should work now. I'll just test it. So now let's just do a search for Samsung, which is this one here, the third one. Oh yeah, there's more than one, so there's two. Samsung Galaxy Book. Now let's do a search for something that's not in the actual array. As you can see, you display the error because the item isn't in the array. It's not in the system. So to dismiss the view, we just click on OK. And then the view is dismissed and all the records are repopulated again in the list. Delete that comment because we don't need it now. And what else do we need to do? Checking. So next week we'll start to add some unit tests. So we'll start on the product view model for the unit tests. And that's what we're doing next week's tutorial. Thank you for joining us. If you found this tutorial helpful, please comment, like and subscribe. See you next week.